Hello and welcome to the Time Is Now podcast. My name is Jody Albert Moss, and today I have a very interesting guest. We've gotten to know each other over the past few Friday nights. We have a Zoom, we come together with a bunch of us, and this is my friend Megan. I'm going to turn it over to her, and she's going to tell us all about herself. Megan?
Hey, Jody, thanks for having me on. So my name is Megan. I'm from the States and I do intuitive reading. I'll do intuitive energy work or whatever source tells me that the person that I'm sitting with needs to be able to move forward or appropriate questions answered through them. So if somebody is feeling stuck or in a rut or they just don't know what to do, I kind of give them the guidance through the powers that be. So whether that be um, their angels, guides, whoever that is, however people accept it, I provide the message to them so that um, they're able to accept who they are as a person and feel comfortable in their own skin to move forward and go on with their life. During that time, I also will provide either IET, so it's intuitive energy therapy, healings for them, Reiki, um, or just however the energy needs to move to unstick what might be going on. Everybody, as you go through, you have different energy sources and panels, and people can have stuck spots in their body. So, a lot of people, if they sit at a desk a lot and they don't do the movement that they need, they'll get stuck spots in their knees, and I can help them move that on, release that stuck source, or in their heart, or whatever it is. Um, to be able to find the guidance and courage to be their own true authentic self.
Interesting. True authentic self is very important to me. I think a lot of people, we've been forced to put up these walls around us. We're living life, but we're not who we're supposed to be.
Right.
What led you into this kind of work?
I kind of just was born into it. I my family, they've all been I don't want to say into energy work, but they are intuitive. So they come from like Salem, Mass. So one of my ancestors was hanged for witchcraft. So that they took what was happening there and moved it into the acceptance of understanding the forest and the trees and the animals. So between that and my Native American heritage as well, kind of blended the two and found what felt right to me. So the trees have a huge amount that they want to talk about. Plants, the wind, if you stop and listen to it, if you're out for a hike, you can hear and get a lot of guidance and understanding. So I try to take what I know and what feels right to my soul into explaining it in a way that somebody else may be able to take that and go forward. I I never knew that it was different when I was growing up. I just always thought that everybody was able to talk to animals and listen to the trees in the forest. And as I grew older, I realized that not everybody understood that that's, part of life and what you're able to do. So um, I never quieted that. I just maybe didn't show it to a lot of people. And as I grew, I realized that quieting that side of myself was making it so I wasn't able to be true to myself and move forward and help myself and be happy. And I think that's the main important thing is understanding that what I do may not be normal to somebody else, but it's beautiful if you listen to the animals and the earth and the land.
Do you think something gets lost when we have to put it into words, when we have to give it a title? For even clients, like if somebody contacts you and you have to put it in a language they understand. And I know myself, I find that very challenging. Have you noticed that?
Oh, 100%. I know for myself, I don't work with one modality. And I think in this day and age, a lot of people really need to have something to grasp onto. You're an energy worker. So what do you do? And and this isn't saying anything negative or anything, but there's a lot of weekend warriors in the energy world. So there's a lot of people that will go out, and I got my level 1 too, but they don't really practice it as much. So I don't like to label myself or put myself into a box of I only do Reiki or I only do this, because all energies are one. And being able to understand that you don't have to label it in order to move forward and provide service or heal yourself or just make your day that was a little bit mundane into something wonderful. So it's very hard to put a full label on exactly what you're looking to um, put out for people to understand what it is. Like I do intuitive readings. I don't work with tarot. I don't work with items, so to say. And it can be a little bit harder to relay what you're trying to say to somebody when you're just throwing words out there. If you're writing it down, different things like that.
Yeah. Um, for your service and what you provide, is it in person or is it online or do you do both? Or how would, if someone's interested in contacting you, how would they get a hold of you and what would they expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody's in Connecticut, I can do in person. I think that the service I like to do in person if I'm able to. Um, but I can 100% do a Zoom or something like this. And I'm on Instagram, so you can message me there. The Untamed Moxie underscore is in there as well. So it's the underscore untamed underscore Moxie is my business page, and you can message me. I can help you out. We can set something up that way. But in person, I'm in Hartford County. I can come out to a reasonable distance to somebody that way too.
Good. Yeah. I myself, I like to do things in person. I will, if I'm contacted, I will work on Zoom, but honestly, I like small numbers. I like face to face, and that's what I'm trying to gear my life around now, getting back to that kind of thing,
Oh,
eh?
sure. I think you get so much more if it's in person. Um, Obviously, Zoom and everything in this day and age, it's a wonderful profile to use and platform, but you're not able to feel the energy. And I know for myself, having the person there and being able to connect in person really gives more, I feel.
Yeah, I totally agree. What kind of person is looking for your services? Like we traditionally, if we work in energy or whatever, we attract a certain kind of person. What kind of people are looking for you? Or
Um, I would say the people that are at a crossroad. Um, they're not sure if they should stay where they are, if they should go down this other path. Um, to get the confidence into being their true self, I'm able to explain different parts of what happened in their past as to why it's happening and repeating. The cycles repeat until you learn a lesson from it. So it could be something in a past life. It could be something um, from a childhood, whatever it might be. And that one part, unknowingly even, is holding somebody back from going forward. Or maybe they just lost their spark in life. I'm able to work with them and help them understand that if you enjoy photography, go out there. You don't have to sell it, but having a hobby, it's okay to have something like that, and giving somebody the permission. Sometimes I think a lot of people just need that permission from an outside source to say, yeah, it's totally okay to go out and do this. It doesn't have to feel okay to anybody else. Um, so I try to help people get over those roadblocks and those stuck zones that they might have in their life to move forward, and not saying that it's going to be the end all, and seeing me, I'm going to make you into a millionaire. That's not what it's about, but it's to make you feel good in your own skin and be able to process what's happening. And maybe you want to go back to school and you don't know what's in your soul. What do you actually feel? I think a lot of people nowadays have been, um, I don't want to use the word brainwashed, but a lot of people have been set up from an early age to say, you go to school, graduate high school, and now you have to go to college, and now you have to go into a 9 to 5. But that's not what everybody needs. And, helping people find their soul's purpose, their what really drives them and gives them that happiness, and it give them different steps that they can take, to go forward with life with that.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of people that are what they were led to believe hasn't worked. You can go for so long like that, and then your
Right.
health starts to pay, and then you start and
100%.
stop and wonder. And so that's hugely beneficial if they can find someone that can help them through that.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier trees and wind, and
Oh yeah.
I know you have a strong connection to the earth.
Yes.
How big a part does that play in your life and what you provide? I think I'm sensing you're connected to it all the time.
All the time. I have plants all over my house. So we're getting to the colder weather, and it's when it's like this, I don't necessarily enjoy being outside for my lengthy hikes that I would normally go on. So I have all my plants in my house, and just because something's not in the ground doesn't mean that it's not connected to earth. So, just constantly doing that. If you're on a road trip and it's mainly highway, just looking at the trees as you're driving by, and even in that split second, you can get a little bit of insight and feel connected and grounded again. And I think it's so huge for people to go out and do walking meditations, take your shoes off, touch a tree, and just shut off all the tabs in your mind and silence what's going on. And you can hear and feel so much just from doing that. It's hugely beneficial. And I think so many people should do that.
Your house plants, you have a lot of them. You name them. They're like people to you, aren't they?
100%. They
Yeah.
all have little personalities, and they're just fascinating. And I just read this thing that plants, the people that care for them, they have such a connection that even when you're 2 miles away, they start perking up like a pet, a cat, a dog. And they're just as connected to me as I am to them. And caring for something else, but they care for me too. And it's not just a plant, it's part of the family.
Yeah, and that you mentioned before, different watering schedules. They tell you when they want the water.
They absolutely do. And it's really interesting. This time of year, they don't want as much water. They're not growing. They're in their hibernation phase. And we all go through that. And if more people would listen to plants and understand that you don't always have to be on the go and you don't always have to be growing. Sometimes it's okay to just go back into yourself and calm and absorb what's already going on. So yeah, the plants will tell me when they're ready for water, and I may not listen right away, and they kind of nudge you and let you know. And same as animals outside, they give you little nudges. Like I have my squirrels out there, and I'll give them little foods and everything, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Have you noticed a change in the animals since the energy started changing?
I absolutely have. They're it's almost like they're amping up for what's next to come. And I really enjoy watching and listening to them. Even like I have a cat, and even right now, he's normally super calm, lays down like Garfield, doesn't really do too much. And I've noticed in the past few weeks, he's more animated and wanting to do more, which is very interesting.
Yeah, we have a cat. We have two cats here too. Something that's been huge, well, it's continually been popular with people is manifesting.
Yeah.
What's your take on manifesting? I don't believe that it's just as simple as you make a vision and there it is.
No, I personally don't think it's as easy as a lot of folks may say that if you watch like reels and something like that on Instagram. Um, I think manifestation is real, but I don't think it's a blink of an eye. I think it's one of those things that just like a house plant, your body, anything else, you have to feed it and, visualize it and understand why do you want that. And I think a lot of people will manifest something that's almost unobtainable, and get very disappointed when it doesn't come through. So I don't necessarily do a lot of the manifestation. I put out to the universe what I would like to have come to me, but I don't necessarily have a vision board. I don't do any of that. Not to say it's wrong. Some people do that and it works wonderful for them, but I just don't put a lot of weight into that at all.
Yeah, it's not something I spend a lot of time with. I
No,
agree with you. I think we have to have practical thoughts towards what we want to
right,
manifest. Something that, for me to wish to manifest $14 million, it's not practical, doesn't even sit in my subconscious mind properly, so I wouldn't do that. But I
right,
think, yeah, in the simplest form, and I think a lot of the most powerful things happen to us and we're not even thinking about it. We may have initially thought about it, and then maybe a week or two goes by, and when it's not on our mind, that's
right.
when it manifests, I've found.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll think of something, I'll put it out to the universe, and I don't really think about it again. And then there it is, however long, 6 months later, 8 months later, um, it'll be there. But I think with manifestation, people have to be realistic with it. Not putting out that you want a mansion by the coast. That's for a lot of people, that's not going to happen. Those are millions and millions of dollars. Um, starting off small and working your way up, but I don't want to manifest somebody else's dream into my life. I want to manifest my own dream. And to me, my dreams are, you might think it's cool, like my stuff, wanting a little house in the middle of the woods where I can have a farm and all that. To me, that's what would be amazing to me. But I think a lot of people nowadays will manifest what they think is out there from what they're seeing other people wanting to manifest. And I don't think that's the way to do it.
Pulls us into a whole big rat's nest, if you ask me,
Yeah,
because like I've been doing a lot of this stuff comes to me in I call them wow moments, and like are the thoughts that I'm having, what's creating those thoughts? Am I thinking like that because of the way I was trained in school?
right.
Like, like really, and I think people, this is where meditation comes in. We have to get in behind the program that's been put in and
Yes,
find out who the real we are. And that's where manifestation comes in. That's where healing comes in.
right,
We really don't even know who we are.
right. Absolutely. And, um, with the manifestation, or not manifestation, meditation, hugely important. And everybody can manifest in a different way. I think quieting your mind and really understanding, getting to your source, your true self, huge. And it's hard to do for a lot of people, but there's so many ways to meditate, and starting off small and working your way up, amazing.
Yeah, I know that you meditate. We've talked before about some meditations, and
Oh yeah, for sure.
you're absolutely right. Like, and just start. Just start. Don't
Yeah,
be so hard on yourself, you know? I know meditation's been around for a long, long time, and everybody's talked about it. And for years, I put it off because it was just too overwhelming for me. The
right.
stuff I was researching, and then one day I just did it, and I started 3 minutes a day. That's all I did. I committed to doing it 3 minutes in the morning, and then it gets longer and longer and more intense and different. And you got to follow your inner voice.
Oh, absolutely. And that scares a lot of people, doesn't it? To, to follow what their inner voice says to them. And um, it's hard. I wish more people would just do that. And like with the meditation, I think I've said to you before, if I don't have a lot of time on my lunch break at work, I'll sit in my car, do a 5 minute meditation just to remove myself from the day-to-day people life and reconnect, recenter, go back in fresh.
Yeah.
Work up from there, but it's starting off small. That's all you have to do, little bits.
And I think the big one too is just being aware, like just to recognize you have to do it. As soon as you think about it, it puts you in a certain mindset.
Right.
Um, the mind's an incredible device, I would say. Takes a little bit of work, but it's worth it.
Amazing.
Yeah. So let's get back to what you do.
Yeah.
Do you do the hands-on work too, or is it all just like just talking or?
No, absolutely. So I'll do hands-on. And truthfully, it is dependent upon the person that comes to me and what they need. If somebody's suffering from back pain, I'll do hands-on Reiki and whatever needs to be done that way. If somebody's experiencing more of a depression, I might do hands-on on the head, on the heart, and then work my way that way and then provide messages that way. And sometimes they're quiet healings. Sometimes I'll talk to them. And it's each person, we're all so different that being able to say, this is the exact way that my healing is going to go every single time, that's not realistic. Um, I don't like to have a set way that I'm going to do it with each person because that can change. And each time somebody comes to see me, it can be a whole different experience. So I absolutely do hands on. I'll do different things where I'll have the client lay down and I'll do hands over, obviously, first to feel their energy. What's going on? Where are we? That might be the first session. That way I can understand. But also, some people don't feel comfortable with the hands on approach. So we'll just sit and we'll talk and I'll give them message that way. And then maybe as they feel more comfortable, we'll do a hands on approach. Everybody's fully clothed, but I will lay my hands over different parts of, their back, their feet, wherever it might be led to go for.
Right. Here's a kind of unique question. Do you ever get called to work on animals, horses or anything like that?
Yep, absolutely. There was animals. So this is a funny story about this. Many, many years ago, I was in my kitchen at my old house and a squeal, this awful scream was coming from outside and it was dark out. And I was very rural. There wasn't a lot of anything around me. And I went outside and I didn't see anything. So I went back in and I'm doing something in the kitchen and that scream happened again. And I went out and there was a fox. And I was like, all right, well, interesting. What's going on, Mr. Fox? How can I help you? And the fox turned to look at me and brought me down the hill, and there was a cat there. And the cat was not in the greatest shape. I said, okay, Mr. Fox, I'm assuming you would like me to help this cat. Is there anything else? And the fox looked at me, looked back at the cat, and walked away. I took the cat in and I did a lot of energy work. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. He was pretty, pretty beaten up. And I did a lot of energy work. And within 2 weeks, that cat was fantastic. I had him for many, many years, and I would let him outside. And every now and then, that fox would come up and they would just hang out on the back porch. Um, Horses, there was uh, one of my friends, her family had several horses, and one of the horses was older and just collapsed. And I went over and I did energy work on the horse, and it showed me these amazing images over its life. And then after I was done, I said, you have your choice. Do you feel that this is your time? I don't feel it is. Or do you need a minute and I can get you up? And the horse wanted to get up and lived for many more years after that. So, energy is energy. It doesn't matter if it's a human, a person, a plant, everything needs healing. And I'm just here to provide that as I can to who will allow.
Yeah, I just picked up on something while you were speaking there. When you say energy is energy, and when you were saying that was it the horse that was giving you the
The
pictures
image,
of its life, the images of its life? Do you think like I don't know much about the Akashic records, but I know it's like a Hall of Records.
yeah.
Do you think animals have access to that too? Like everything that we're doing in this mass consciousness, can we use the word consciousness? Like do the animals, the trees, and everything else have access to that same energy?
That's a really good question. I think they do, but I think that their records are going to be different than what would be for you or I, um, because their perception is going to be different than ours. So, an animal's perception of life is like, take a cat or a horse, for instance. The horse, their perception is, I had a good life if I had a large field to roam in, great grass, hay, and I was cared for properly. So their Akashic record is probably going to be smaller. If you go back into the times with when they were used in battle and everything, you're probably going to see some things that aren't pleasant. But I think that they will definitely have an Akashic record. That's a really good thing. Now my brain is going with that. Um,
I'll
and
even carry it farther. Like, can we, well, and like you said with the service, the healings, the work that you do, it's hard to put a title and a name to it. So,
yeah,
does it actually need a title and a name? And everything we're talking about, especially in the spiritual world, if we took the names away, it applies to everything.
it 100% does. Yeah, for sure. It really does. And that's why I'm so leery on putting titles and labels and everything, because as I said, energy is energy, healing is healing. Um, and I think if more people were open minded to understanding that there's, no matter who you go to and the service that you get, it's all going to be energy work. I will deliver it differently than somebody else.
Yeah, and
I,
I find like if we have to put a name to it, like we have to use the name Reiki, or
right,
we're so far into it now. Maybe 30 years ago was a little bit different,
right,
but we're so far into it. It's all common knowledge now. I find that once you put a name to something, the person you're telling it to forms an opinion right off the bat, just off that name. And it
for,
may be an artificial opinion that was planted in their mind.
right.
So yeah, I feel as the energies pick up, the people seeking assistance, they won't even go, but they'll just go by what they feel. Their intuition guided them, and that would be a very special thing.
I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And I really hope that that's how it's going to go back to, because truthfully, you're right. As soon as you put a label on something, there's going to be a misconception for what is that person going to do? They're only going to be able to do Reiki. They're only going to be able to work on this. But a true energy worker. I don't know if that's the way that it should be worded. Energy intuitive, I guess. I'm not sure. Uses all the modalities. Whatever is out there, the universe is just using somebody like me as a conduit. So they're gonna allow all that energy to come through me to go to that person. And if I were to label it, then I feel like I'm doing a disservice to myself, the client, and the universe, and saying, I will only do it this way. Because then I'm not following my authentic self either. And that's no good.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think about this kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, like crystals, there's so much energy in crystals. And um, if you like, for me personally, I know that they all have names. If you have a crystal book and everything like that, but they all say different things. And for me, I will go over, I have a bowl and I'll just say, all right, who needs to come with me today? What do I need today? And I'll grab it that way. And I don't put a label on them for what they do, because just because a book says it doesn't mean that they don't have other abilities with them.
Absolutely. So you're a crystal person.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's good. Um, I love crystals. They're alive. They communicate. I'm starting to make excuse me, videos about it. I'm starting to speak up a little more into some areas that might be kind of controversial, but you know what? I got to say it. And crystals they amplify, um, project, transmit.
Oh, yeah.
But and I know you know this. Doesn't matter if we're around trees, people, or whatever. It's what we link to it in our minds. Even a
Right.
crystal, it's the what we have in our own minds that makes it happen, and that's where we have to be careful.
Right. Absolutely. And there's um there's a lot of power in even the smallest little quartz crystal holds so much energy, and their personality and everything that they can do, that you don't need anything big, but they're just so powerful. So much
Yeah.
energy in them. Even
Yeah.
just rocks from outside.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, okay, crystals are great. I love quartz crystals, but go ahead, talk about rocks from outside because I'm so passionate about them.
Yeah, they all have so much personality. And like if I'm out hiking or something, I'll go over and I'll just touch them. And like you can almost feel their energy and their story and who's come by and who hasn't. And some will say, I'd like to go home with you. And some are like, I'm happy here. So you leave them there. And then the other ones come back with me, and maybe I take them and I'll put them in my plants. And they're super happy with that. Um, Sometimes I'll just put them around my house because I'm not in the middle of the woods, but they still have that same protection and the same energy and everything, even if they're not out there, and they're giving that to my property.
And they work the same way as you mentioned with your plants, where the plant interacts and looks for you, and
Right.
the stones in your house do the same thing. If you're when you're coming home, they're aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
They're not just laying there. There's a stone consciousness that connects, and it's incredible once you can tap into that.
Oh, it definitely is. And, there's so much energy out there in every part of the world. And you don't have to travel far to feel this or see this or understand it. I think it's just, as I said before, like if somebody has their computer open and there's 17 tabs open, close out those tabs. That you have to do that with your brain. Take those thoughts, put them in a box,
Yeah.
get out of that, and just go and sit by a tree, hold on to a rock, and just see what comes. You'll get little it may not be instant. I don't want people to get discouraged thinking that it's going to be an instantaneous thing when I do this, but quieting and learning to just hold on to a rock, sit with a tree, feeling their energy is it's major, and it can do a huge amount of good with your body, your your rhythm, your nerves, all of that. And removing from technology and going back into that can help with anxiety and depression and um, being unaware of who you are. It allows you to just sit and figure out who you are.
Yeah, and like we see each other here, we're on camera, we're in the physical form. A
Right,
lot of this information, like I believe we can do everything, so I'm not putting limitations on it. But we're still in the physical form and we still have our egos and we're still that part of not being our true authentic selves.
right,
What I believe, well, I know I'm not going to speak for me. When I go out into nature, it's communicating with my higher self. I don't need to know the words. I know that
right.
the energies, nature, it's in there and it filters down over a period of time. And that's when these little wow moments, these little flashes of
Yeah,
information come in because now you've connected to the higher consciousness.
right.
And I talked about that, getting information from the sun. Go stand by a river, get information from a river. And I was reading a book that I've had for years and I never read it. And I'm getting into it now. And it says that if we want to ascend, we can't do it without nature. Nature's like 75%. You don't even have to know it. Just
Right.
go spend time in it and it will heal you and help raise your energy.
Absolutely. Definitely. And the trees remember you when you go back. Like one of my paths, if I don't go down that way for a while and I go back over, you can tell that they're, if they like you, they're excited to see you. And it's just absolutely fascinating. And it truly is amazing the amount that you can connect with just being out in the forest, in the fields, and wherever you need to go and whatever you have available to you, a park.
Yeah. And sometimes it will come as words.
Right.
I remember, and I'll try to get this out right, but right next to us, there was an empty lot. And like there used to be all farmland here, but it's not. And it's sold. And now they're putting in 3 or 4 condos and
Oh,
they
geez.
cut down all the trees. And then I was out in the backyard and a tree said to me, "You're very fortunate." What do you mean? You can go. You can pack up. You can take your family and leave. I have to stand here with my roots in the ground. I've been here over 300 years, and I have to watch as they come with their chainsaws and they cut down my brothers and sisters. And I know one day they'll be here for me, and I can't go anywhere. You're very fortunate, the tree said.
Isn't it hard?
Boy, that just shattered me.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking for him.
Yep. But we have to go through life and be in touch. We can't just take and be bullies and do whatever we want because we're human. It's not going to work like that in the near future. It's all changing. Well, it's
Oh,
going back to what it used to be.
yeah, absolutely. I was just talking about that today, that you know, there's going to be huge changes. I think it'll be for the positive. I think it's going to scare a lot of people, though. And it's going to really bring us back to the roots, which is what's needed to be able to move forward properly.
I agree. It's going to change. There was a time I had issues with it, but now I feel it very positive. It
Yeah,
may not be easy, but it's going to be positive.
right.
And I've debated about why I do these podcasts and why I make all this content. And I get a few comments back from people, and that's why I do it. This is a vehicle that if people are looking, I don't just interview anybody. So on this show, you can be comfortable that I know the people that I'm interviewing. And if you have a need and want to reach out, nothing silly, don't feel insecure. Send Megan get her on Instagram or send me a message. I can help you get a hold of her. this is about coming together. And if we can do it on a global level, that's why I do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the more that people talk about it and understand what you and I see to be the future. And I don't want to say like being a prepper or under anything like that, but to understand how to disconnect from society to reconnect to our higher selves is going to definitely help out people in the future in how the world is going to show up in the future. I would say the near future, and being able to how to talk to the trees and the ferns. They have a lot to say. They're actually really funny little plants, and being able to do that, huge, absolutely major to be able to do that. And I think that you and I can definitely help a lot of people with that for sure.
Yeah, and on that note, like, and I've gone through this myself, like this hoarding food and water, and I've done a lot of fasting, I've done a lot of diet change, and I've gone days without food and don't even need it. So I think that wanting to have all this money in the bank and all these it goes against what manifesting and having faith is all about.
Exactly.
We're supposed to raise our vibration and frequency. There's lots of information that's been shared about people that just manifest food. They don't need money because everything's taken care of. And I
Right.
know I know it's a hard concept to grasp, but it's real.
Yeah, absolutely is. It definitely is. And um I don't understand the hoarding mentality with stuff like that. Like, it's made in a factory. It has a shelf life on it. That's not a forever thing.
Yeah.
You can't keep that forever. Like, even the bottles of water, which I won't drink a bottle of water, has an expiration date on it
Yeah,
because
they won't last.
no. And that's not, I don't think that that's the most productive, safest way to feel like you're prepping for the future at all. I think that there's far better ways, and um it saddens me for people that think that they have to hoard all of that and that's the only way that they're going to have safety.
I'm going to go back and say you want to prepare for the future? Start meditating right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that.
You know. Megan, tell us how we get a hold of you again.
So I am on Instagram, the_untamed Moxie, and I'll send you the link too so you can add that in.
Yeah, give me that link so when I put these up, I'll put the links in.
Perfect.
Um, so everybody knows, this session that we've done will go up on my YouTube channel, will go up on my Spotify podcast, which goes out to about 9 other podcast platforms, and I'll put it across the links across my social media. The unfortunate thing about social media, I can type in the link, but they don't hyperlink some of them, so you can't just click on it and go to it. But let's get people connected. Let's get people contacting Megan. She's got a lot of wonderful information, a lot of energy, and I know from knowing her for a while now, there's a big part of her she can't put into words. So that's a very important part. Any final words, Megan, before we sign off? We can have you back anytime. Anytime you want to talk about something,
Be back
we'll,
on.
we'll
Um,
do it. Yeah.
Final words, I think, get out there, get into nature, touch trees, and find your true authentic self and feel okay with who you truly are.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been the Time Is Now podcast. Everyone have a fantastic day or evening, depending on what part of the planet you're on. And we look forward to sharing with you again.
Thank you for having me on.
Very welcome.